With the Irish Independent this morning, and it's one of the big stories, one of the big storylines leading into the Grand Slam match tomorrow in Twickenham. Assistant ref gets the boot. Owen's online for decider after official attends England training. That is, of course, Marius van der Westhuizen, who has been stood down from the game after he interacted with the England training camp this week in the lead up to England versus Ireland tomorrow in the Six Nations. Well done, correct decision, and it might have been the easy way out. Well, I'm not sure, was it the easy way out to potentially have let this one slide and, you know, ignore the uproar that might have resulted?
In the short term it would have been, but it just, one tiny thing happens tomorrow and suddenly this guy's in the spotlight. But it does seem as if, reading the quotes, that World Rugby were actually slightly implicit in this, that they'd encourage their officials to engage and communicate properly with the various nations involved. And obviously this is kind of at the end of the extent of that. But you would kind of think that you'd assume that he didn't get involved there knowing that actually this is something I shouldn't be doing. You would have thought that actually he understood that. He obviously did it understanding that this is fine. This is just open, good communication. Like, 'cause there's nothing more malevolent, surely.
Yeah, sure. Like, but he's a referee going to visit a team competing in the game in which he is officiating upon.
It's totally wrong, but what I'm saying is he obviously understood it to be totally right.
I don't see how you can come to that understanding. Like, did he read the rule book and was like, I see that the touch judge isn't listed in the rules here that suggests that you can't interact with a team if you're an official.
I'm going to give him a total pass on this one and say that he absolutely would have checked that with somebody in World Rugby or somebody involved higher up to say, listen, I've been asked to do this thing. You definitely would. I've been asked to do this thing because World Rugby have kind of taken a bit of ownership of it. I've been asked to do this thing. Is that all right? And they obviously went, listen, knock yourself out.
Yeah, fair enough. Maybe that is the case. It's an interesting. Like, why would World Rugby say yes to this? It's an astonishing thing. Yeah.
Was Nigel Owens not officiating anywhere this weekend? By the way, that was one thought.
Good point, actually. Yeah.
That, like, it just happens this standby that can come in is one of the leading referees in World Rugby.
Yeah, you would have thought he would have been refereeing one of the other two games.
Isn't it?
Yeah, very strange. My new favourite Renaissance painting is Ultan Delam with arm around Tadhg Furlong. It's on the front of the Irish Times sports section this morning. Schmidt not daring to dream as third slam opportunity beckons. It's Jerry Thornley's story saying that Henderson is the only change to starting side as Jonah opts for radical surgery. 7 changes to that England side. We're going to be chatting to Fiona Steed a little bit later on in the show.
What was your favourite before that?
Last Supper.
Really?
Yeah. Mona Lisa, overrated. Probably in and around top 20, not top 10. Last Supper, a good contender for, you know, top 3, I think, in everybody's books.
Do you want to tell viewers where you were this day or roughly this last week?
Oh, I went
checking out some culture.
I went to the Museum of Modern Art. Yeah. Currently average enough. I wouldn't overly advise it at the moment.
Eoin and JP went to the Museum of Modern Art and both of them came back and went, that was all right.
I'm a cultured man. I've seen a lot of museums, and I wouldn't say the current exhibition status of the Museum of Modern Art is particularly great.
Yeah.
Like, some of them are excellent. There's one floor dedicated to Brazilian art, which just didn't do it for me.
That went over your head a bit.
The Brazilian art isn't for me. You know, I'm a Renaissance man, Adrian, and a Renaissance man truly. Dreaming Big reads the front of the Irish Examiner sports section. Ronan O'Gara's column there listed saying that childhood dreams of winning a Grand Slam against England at Twickenham. So yeah, it's Raj talking about 09 and talking about the dreams that comes with that, and he would love to have got another chance to have won a Grand Slam. The back page of the Times Ireland edition then, Schmidt says ugly win would be just fine, and how right he is. Gatland meanwhile adding to pressure on Jones. He says that they could start to unravel at England if they lose to Ireland tomorrow. You've also got Danny Welbeck there, accused of a dive. I think that's being pretty kind to Danny Welbeck to say he's been accused of a dive after last night's.
I thought you'd be defending him, Owen. I thought you'd have been right behind that.
No.
He was surely clipped. There was a little bit of contact there, surely.
It was absolutely remarkable. It was probably dive of the season. Like, the confusion, I thought that there had to have been contact.
Yeah,
like
a clip somewhere. It's the one that you replay the 5th time and then you go, oh, he just caught his sock there.
Give Danny Welbeck 100 more chances to replicate the body movement that he did last night without any contact, and you're like, he wouldn't be able to do it. I don't know how a human can actually make that sort of movement, this sort of flop that he did. Like, Tom Daly wouldn't be able to pull that off. It was incredible. It was
the assistant referee, by the way, standing directly in front of him.
Best seat in the house. Best seat for that exact position.
I think people go on about VAR. I think that sorting out those assistant referees who are supposed to be sort of keeping their eyes on that stuff. They frequently, you frequently have these conversations go, the assistant referee was right there looking at it. Why can't they make better calls?
Maybe they're daydreaming. Like, I often think that like you always get one chance to see it without VAR.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to think,
as I call it, but that's fine. Yeah.
like 90 minutes of focus is very tough. I mean, if you're watching a game at home,
90 minutes of focus though for that guy. That guy only needs like 20 minutes max, I would think.
sure, but it's in intervals, so it's like
it's like the goalkeeper thing to a large extent.
Exactly. So the ball's at the other end. Oh yeah, there's Danny Welbeck. Oh, he's on the ground. Oh, I haven't seen that.
Has to be a penalty.
Exactly. Like I don't know. It's maybe the Emirates. You know,
He's thinking about getting the shopping or whatever.
He must be. Like, my mind would be wandering, certainly, if I was at the Emirates at certain times last night. But the Joe Schmidt is saying that the dream is still alive, I should say. Ireland on brink of Grand Slam with England in way. You've also got Golden Duke, says the back of the Irish, of the Daily Herald, rather. It's the final day of the Cheltenham Festival, and they've got a 16-page pull-out. Golden Duke, of course, in reference to our Duke, who's been tipped by a number of people for the big one, the Gold Cup. It's off at 3:30 this afternoon.
The Joe Schmidt, I think we should just start calling him that.
Yeah, rather than the Grand Slam, the Joe Schmidt. Yeah, good old mix up there.
Right, let's have a look over here. The Racing Post we're going to begin with. This is the Irish version, of course, your essential daily guide to Irish racing, who say that we're out to steal a perfect festival. It's kind of been that really already, isn't it? As we've got the Pressbury Cup already in the bag on, as we've been discussing. So they go into the various connotations and possibilities for today there in the Racing Post, and we're going to get into those ourselves shortly with John Duggan and Johnny Ward as well, going to join us to get stuck into all of those and give you mark your card, I think is the terminology for the day. Here we go in the Irish Daily Star this morning. This is Green Day as Mullins leads the Irish charge here, writes Brian Flanagan. Reflecting there, a great photograph that's featured across a lot of them as well, of Davy Russell kissing the trophy there, the Ryanair chase, after his victory yesterday. Schmidt knows what's needed as well. You'd hope so, writes Derek Foley there in the Star. In the Mirror this morning, Schmidt reveals his fear ahead of Slam bid, and also bring on Barca. Carragher wants Cop to take on the best, and that means Messi in the new camp. So the draw for the quarterfinals of the Champions League will be made today. And I mean, we'd all been wondering what Jamie Carragher was feeling about who Liverpool would get, or just his thoughts generally about football in his absence over the last few days. And they turn up in the Mirror today. I've had a bit of a scan through it. I haven't exactly figured out why he's speaking today. It seems to be like a Jamie Carragher press conference or whatever. But he's certainly keeping himself relevant. He does seem as well as if he's the sort of guy who's kind of sitting at home. Like, he's very animated when he's on the TV about football, and I kind of expect he's like that all the time. He just needs to get this stuff off his chest.
Yeah, it's not an act. Him getting worked up on Monday Night Football is not an act by Jamie Carragher. Maybe those journalists who met him at the airport there on Monday was like, oh, by the way, Jamie, what do you reckon about Liverpool?
It's possible. Let's not rule that out. But I mean, you know, does he, in the context of, do I want to be appearing across all the back pages of the Red Tops, given that everything that's gone on over the last few days, then engage in that conversation? I mean, he's given, I don't know what's happened. He's certainly given his thoughts on it today. The whole thing has been a bit bizarre for me, Eoin, I have to say. The various things that have happened. I don't know if you've watched the footage. I did at one point in the week certainly bring myself to do that. And look, it's grim and it's miserable, and he clearly shouldn't have done it. And he's come out and apologised for it. And I think quite a genuine apology. He has a little bit of form in losing the rag a bit. Might be a bit of an anger issue there somewhere along the line. But he's suspended till the end of the season. I think it's bad. It's not a great decision, I don't think, from Sky, because ultimately what's going to happen is that he'll not be back until the start of next season, at which point everyone's kind of forgotten about it, but it's suddenly a story again at a point where Sky should be saying, hey, look at all our football this season. They've obviously secured a bunch of new rights. Look at our amazing punditry teams. But the story's going to be Jamie Carragher, where if they brought him back a couple of weeks before the end of the season, then suddenly he just slips back in, becomes a bit of a fuss, but the season's done anyway. Everyone sort of forgets about it, and it's a clean slate next season.
Yeah.
Sort of, that would have been my view.
Correct. Yeah, I think there's no question about that. That the PR way to do this was to get him back in for the last couple of games of the season.
Yeah.
When ultimately Sky Sports games might be a little bit pointless. The focus will probably be on you a little bit more because it's not the start of a new season. But who cares? It's only 2 games. The thing that could save him is, I'm not sure is he lined up to do any World Cup punditry.
Not sure, actually.
So if he is back as a pundit in some capacity, that'll save Sky Sports bacon. I could have missed the line that he is a pundit for somebody, and there's a high chance that is the case. But yeah, you're right. The PR move was to get him back for the end of the season. But certainly, you know, suspending him to the end of the season, I think it's fair to say that that's certainly the punishment dished out, and I think that's a fair punishment, and potentially even above and beyond the line of punishments.
Above and beyond the fair punishment, I think, is a pretty good way to describe it. Like, there couldn't have been much more than that. There was some people talking about sacking him and stuff like that. I mean, I think that his behaviour was terrible and he's apologised for it, and let's just leave it at that. I think the father in this whole thing, I hope he doesn't get out of it scot-free, by the way. Like that was the grimmest part of that entire thing, was the embarrassment of his daughter. And
well, it wasn't the grimmest part of it, the whole
joy
thing.
the father took, that's what I felt. I mean, what Jamie Carragher did was disgusting.
That was the grimmest part of the whole thing.
But like, let's say that was a moment of rage that he utterly regrets, he's apologised to everybody and he forgets about. This father's an asshole. Like, his daughter was going along saying, "Oh, Daddy, you're embarrassing me, can you please stop? This is horrible." And after Carragher spits, the father was like, "Oh, I just got Jamie Carragher on camera doing this thing." Really? Is that your reaction after somebody spat at your daughter?
Well, I don't think that was his reaction. I think his reaction was disbelief that a former Liverpool legend had just spat at his daughter. I think it was more
It felt to me to be a little bit of triumphalism, and I've got this footage that suddenly appears up on, was it the Mirror's? Was it the Mirror, actually?
That would be quite ironic if it was the Mirror, given that his quotes only appear in the Mirror today.
Yeah, it was the Mirror, yeah.
There we go. That is remarkable. I do think the grimmest thing about it was the Carragher spit. I don't think you can argue against that. I do think it's like the thing about this is that I think 2018 will be remembered as the year of the analysis of the apology. As in, you know, you do something bad, then you apologise, and then everybody, the Twitterati sit down and is like, right, was this apology
was it
good enough?
Sufficient?
Was it bad enough? And then, you know, Twitter sits down and is like, right, you have to be sacked. Oh, wait, this organisation doesn't agree with what the Twitter mob says, therefore we have to be outraged and it is completely incorrect. There is no room for nuance here because this is Twitter and his apology wasn't good enough. But thankfully his apology was good enough, Adrian, so we can all get on with our lives you know, the Twitter mob won't come after him.
I saw Eddie Jones' apology described in one of the newspapers today as meek. Like,
that's ridiculous.
Apology, like, we get over it. Like, to be honest, from an Irish context, who effing cares anyway? Like, his comment to me was something, I watched the full piece actually, and his comment to me was like something like a child would say about a neighbouring club that they'd been beaten, like, "Oh, that scummy local team." Like, it was nothing. The biggest thing out of the video, I don't know if you watched the full thing, but the biggest thing out of it was that 15-year-old rugby players in Japan are essentially playing full-time. That was the biggest thing that I took out of it, I have to say. Who cares about his...
Are you a subscriber to Fuso Talks or something?
The Irish Sun this morning, Welbeck in dive storm. Dan Rapt, it says here on the back page of The Sun. And the Sex Nations, Eddie wants a state of arousal. We're not even, I mean, I don't even know what that's about, but...
he wants the players to get aroused suitably for the game. But, like, you can say aroused and it doesn't have to be sexual. That's...
Well, they've gone for it
to The Sun.
The front page of, what have I got here on The Times, is it?
That's the Telegraph.
Yeah. There we go. There we go. If I removed my finger from the front of the newspaper, I would have found out exactly that's what it was. Welbeck in diving row, and it's panic stations as Jones wields the axe. England coach overhauls his team for the Six Nations showdown with Ireland. That game tomorrow, and then we have the Guardian here, and it's dominated by Danny Welbeck again here. Danny, boys, Arsenal 3-1. They beat Milan to go through to the next round, and Gareth Southgate as well on his team going to Russia. He's saying he doesn't want players making individual decisions, that they need to make their decisions as a team, which in itself I find a little bit bizarre. I have to say that, I mean, ultimately I will decide if I'm going to go or not. Like, we can all decide as a team we're going, but if I think this is not for me, then I'm just not going to go.
But why would you not want to go?
It's the whole piece is based around these security concerns and...
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, footballing reasons, I'm going, but yeah.
I'm sure, you know, like Martin from Croydon will do the fighting for you. You don't need to get involved yourself, Danny Welbeck. So I don't think that'll be in the players' minds somehow.